well, as you know, things rolled downhill. And I was at the bottom of the hill when Ian and Gwen had this epiphany that they could actually work together. Because up until this time, the relationships were somewhat fragile. And I remember particularly, and I think this probably goes with most city administrations, when you have a major power in your community that has a major influence over public works, such as the Parks Foundation, that you as an elected official might actually think that you run the Parks Department. And at that time, I would say there was a certain tension there as well. So we were somewhat dysfunctional when all this occurred. And I will tell you, I still have calluses from the '82 flood because I worked all night at the Memorial Coliseum filling sandbags. And there's no doubt that event really created the breakthrough to allow us to move forward. Because we were able to convert this from, gee, we'd like to have another park, to, gee, we have a major public problem that can only be solved by dealing with this area of the city. And oh, by the way, we can overlay that with a park, with a truly public-private partnership. And although there have been public-private partnerships in my time in Fort Wayne, I think this one was the first one that really, over time, will last for the long term. And I think it's rare that you can get this kind of cooperation. Now, standing here today and looking back at it, it looks real easy. But at the time, let me revisit a couple of facts. In 1979, those wily critters from Indianapolis, that as everybody knows in Fort Wayne, controlled the State House, ran through a little thing called the White River Park Development Commission. That commission was set up solely, and in fact, in the exact same way that this commission was eventually set up here. But that one was created by state statute, and this one was created locally. But the charge of the two commissions was very much the same. There was no state money involved at that time. It was 1985 that those wily critters from Indianapolis, that controlled the legislature, ran through in the budget a little item at the 11th hour that created the White River State Park, the first urban state park created in the state of Indiana, and the last, as we found out. So, I think it was in '85 when these discussions started, as a result of what had happened at White River, that we should go down there and get the same. After all, we had a good story to tell. So, Mitch Harper was actually the point person, I think, in the House on this particular issue. And so I got with Mitch, and we started filling out leadership and talking to people, and guess what? Those wily critters from Indianapolis that were so supportive of their own park really didn't feel that it was time to consider that for anyone else. And in fact, there was a huge resentment from outside of central Indiana as to the fact that that thing ever got created. And so there wasn't going to be another one. So that was the hard lesson we learned fairly quickly. We went through our paces. We brought, much to my chagrin and concern, we brought Eric down. And as Gwen can appreciate now as the chairman of the committee, we imposed upon the committee to visit with Eric, and we laid out all his grandiose plans. And if you recall, his plans actually covered about 600 acres. As far as he could see, down the river, up the river, every river, it was all going to be one massive park. And So, but we made the effort and quickly realized in the '86 session that it wasn't going to happen, and that the only way that we were going to make this happen, and that there was in fact a vehicle to do so under local government rules, is we could create a commission just like it had been created, but it was going to, we were going to have to work on funding in different ways. And so we did that. When we got back, Ian and my former boss, Mike Marchese, sat down and we talked about the situation, and particularly the fact that there was a certain dysfunctional activity going on between private groups and government and private corporations that were all being looked at to pony up money. And the decision was that we weren't going to pony up any money until we actually saw people coming together and making the commitment to actually work together to make this happen. That is what created the Headwaters Alliance, on which I sat. John was on there and some others, and that was the planning group that led to the creation of the commission. And we spent, I can remember, well over a year, if not longer, basically airing the dirty laundry of everybody and trying to let everybody have their say, get it all out on the table, and then finally bring everybody to a focus. And fortunately, we were able to do that, and that led then to the commission being created in 1987. At the end of '87, I took an opportunity in Indianapolis and was not able to continue my role in that. John Gurney stepped in for Lincoln and did a wonderful job for that. And of course, Ian was always there to support the activity. And I will just tell you that if I had not had the bosses that I had, the Mike Marchese's of the world, particularly working for Ian Rowland, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't have the success I have today, because the public service aspect of Ian's life in particular can't help but rub off on me. And I've always thought in terms that he thinks of when I represent clients before the legislature, and I always try to do the right thing as opposed to necessarily the thing my client wants to do, which sometimes is not the right thing to do. And but you have to stand up to the challenge, and you have to work it through with your clients and get it where it needs to be. And I think we've been fairly successful doing that. So I want to thank you all, particularly those of you that were here at the beginning and supported this activity. This is an incredible result. I have not seen this park until today. I think I saw it maybe while phase 3 was being worked on. So to me, a lot of these trees weren't here, and it was still pretty flat, and we didn't have the pavilions and what have you. So this is really wonderful to stand here and see this. And again, I want to thank our legislators that were very instrumental in working at the State House, and particularly Mitch and Phyllis, and Ben had to leave, but as he came later, he was very helpful in trying to get funding. So again, thank you all.